Hi, I'm Ron Meyer, Colorado State University Extension Agronomist. We're out here in an irrigated wheat field in eastern Colorado. It's a good-looking irrigated wheat field, but keep in mind this particular field is at heading, and when that happens, the wheat crop is at its peak evapotranspiration demands, so we call that ET. So at that point, today it's going to be about mid-80s. We've got heads starting to come out. This wheat crop is using about 1/4 of an inch of moisture per day. Next week, with those same temperatures, this wheat crop will be using about 3/10 of an inch of moisture per day. So take that times 7 days, that's well over 2 inches in the week. If that irrigation system isn't running, it needs to be running now, because at this point in time, that wheat's using everything as far as soil moisture it can get. We're going to talk about some production issues that take place in wheat. We've got some examples we're going to show you, and we'll talk about some diseases and insects both. All right, this is stripe rust. Stripe rust is a fungus. It starts with one spore landing on a leaf. That spore, if conditions are right, germinates, and from there the disease can proliferate. So it's stripe rust in wheat. Some varieties are pretty tolerant. Hatcher is showing good tolerance to it yet, and I have not seen a breakdown in Hatcher to stripe rust. There are some varieties that are susceptible, and so this came off of a leaf of TAM 1 and 11, and it gets it. And so if you've got some of the susceptible varieties out there, you're going to have to consider spraying if stripe rust is an issue in those fields. All right, this is mechanical damage in wheat, and it's caused by some kind of a hail hit or a wheel track, and this plant is having a hard time shooting its head out, but it just got some mechanical damage done to it that it's having trouble recovering from. So if you're seeing wheat like this, it's not an insect or disease jumping on it, it's just something that has hit it or whacked it or drove over the top of it to cause that. What we're showing here is Russian wheat aphid symptomology, and you can see the striping on these leaves. What happens is those aphids will jump on these plants, they'll start feeding, they inject a toxin into the leaf, and that toxin travels up the veins, thus causing the striping. So if you're walking in wheat fields, you're starting to see some striping. This striping can be cream colored, it can be reddish in color, it can also be tannish. So if you've seen some of that striping, you just need to peel the leaf back and see if you can find what's causing it. Typically it'll be Russian wheat aphid. Now the good news is there are insecticides available, and products like Lorsban and the generics are working quite well. So I have not seen any resistance developed by the insect to the insecticides we're using. But again, if you're seeing this symptomology, it's probably going to be Russian wheat aphid. Now we can take that a step further and ask what the economic threshold levels are. They change by crop maturity, so when the wheat is small, we see those threshold levels lower, and so 8%, 5 to 8% infestation levels, it's time to spray. As this wheat heads out, the economic thresholds increase, and so after heading, if we're in that 10 to 12% infestation level with Russian wheat aphid, we need to be considering an insecticide treatment. What we're seeing here is wheat streak mosaic. Wheat streak mosaic is a viral infection. Viral infections are always vectored by an insect, and so typically one of the aphids will bring this in. But also wheat curl mite is a major vector of wheat streak mosaic, and so the way to control this one is plant a little bit later in the fall when those mites are less active. There are no insecticides that we can spray for this one, and so as a result we have to control it by planting date and strategies. Okay, this is barley yellow dwarf, and again, barley yellow dwarf is a virus, and so viruses are vectored by one of the insects, and so typically we have one of the aphids will bring it in, so bird oat cherry aphid or some of those other insects that can carry it. They're coming in, they're feeding, and they're carrying the viral infection with it. Typically we don't get too excited about this one, and the reason is we see it sporadically. We seldom see it take a field out of production, and so that's good news. If you see something like this, it's probably barley yellow dwarf.